Hi and welcome back to part 2 on this project guitar. And as I said in the last video, if you've seen that, we dealt with getting the horrible finish off the body, and yeah, it was horrible. Now we're going to deal with the neck. That has issues, lots of sharp frets, and I think some of these frets are kind of misaligned height wise, so I'm going to check for those and then just show you how we deal with that and how to correct it. So yeah, let's get straight onto it. Okay, just going to run down and check the frets and then mark any high ones with a pen. So just starting at the top, using this tool here, and straight away you can actually hear that. I'll put up a close video of this so you can actually see what's happening here. So I'm just going to run down and check all the frets for any that are misaligned height wise, mark them, and then we'll get on with dealing with them, either tapping them back into place, which often works, or using some other tools which I'll show you as we get further into the video. Well, as you can see, I've gone down through over the whole neck, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frets that have slight issues, some worse than others. First thing to do is just to see if they just need a tap down, because they seem to be high in the middle rather than at the edges, so it's not like they're lifting out. But just put a block of wood underneath to support the neck with obviously something to protect it, and just give a kind of sharp knock, and no difference whatsoever. So that's not the case with these. It's not the fact they're not pushed in, it's just the fact it's the curve of the fret just needs to be taken down a bit. So for that I'm going to use this tool and put that over there to protect the fretboard surface. And then we've got these abrasive tools here, and it's a case of working first with the coarse one and then finish off with the finer one. So as it's marked with ink, I can see where I've gone. It does seem pretty bad, this one, so I'm hoping I can actually sort it. It's getting a little bit better. Yeah, still quite a lot to come off there. So rather than bore you with that, I'm just going to crack on and hopefully work my way down the neck, and just hoping I can actually sort them out. Otherwise we're off to a loser right from the beginning. Okay, right, I've worked my way down the whole neck, and luckily we've managed to sort them out, and so they're all kind of level now. The next stage is to get rid of those horrible sharp edges, and for that I'm using this tool. Now I have done quite a comprehensive video on sorting necks out before, but I'll show you again rather than put a link into the previous one. And as you know, these have really sharp edges, and so using this tool, which is abrasive inside but it's actually smooth on the outside so it doesn't damage the fretboard, it's just a case of getting onto the edge like this, and you can actually feel it kind of biting. And straight away that's literally done. Yeah, that's done. So just going to work down all the frets on both sides of the guitar, and then we'll condition the fretboard, and I'll show you what I use for doing that. Well, just a few minutes using this tool, and it's lovely now. You can slide your fingers up and down the neck of this without sort of getting any lacerations to your fingers. And what I'm going to do now is just feed the fretboard surface, and for that I use this. I use this lemon oil, and there are other brands around. It's just I got given this with one of my guitars when I bought it, and I found it to be absolutely superb stuff, so I've just carried on with it really. But there are other ones on the market, and you don't spray it directly onto the fretboard. Just spray it onto the cloth, or in this case a bit of paper toweling, and then just work it in. Yeah, that's actually soaking straight into that fretboard, so it was looking quite dry. You can see it's actually, I can see all that dirt on there as well. I tend to do this every time I change my strings. Some may say that's too often, but once the strings are off, it's a good time to clean the frets. I sometimes use, I think it's a Solvo Auto Sol or something like that, to actually polish the frets up. It gives you a good opportunity to check them all. And then just put a bit of this into the fretboard and the job's a good one, really. Yeah, that's good. Just take off any excess. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. I don't know if this camera shows that up very well, but that really has lifted the grain as well. It just looks 100% better. I've got to just hope now that the frets are actually in the right place and we can actually make sure we can get the intonation of the guitar set up correctly. So next stage is I've got to cut the nut to take the strings. I think I've got files for those, and then we'll fit the tuning heads, for which I did splash out a little bit, if I can find them. Yeah, I've got these lovely gold Grover ones. So I thought, let's go good quality, and they do look absolutely superb. So yeah, that should finish it off quite nicely. Right, next stage then. Well, I think you have to agree, these tuners look absolutely superb, don't they? It's worth splashing out on decent ones. We're trying to make this into quite a good guitar, so it wasn't worth really skimping. And I was quite impressed because they came with all the hardware, including a little spanner as well for putting them together. It's quite easy to fit tuning heads, tuning keys. I've just got the washer, so I'm just seeing if that's on the camera, washer and this sort of internal threaded part, so like a bush, so to just drop in from this side and just screw up from underneath, and you just screw them up and get them semi-tight and located, and then you just make sure you can get the screw in, which should hold them into a straight position. So I'm just going to go on and fit the rest of them, and then I'll show you what they look like. Well, that's the tuners fitted. They look absolutely outstanding, don't they? Really pleased with them, and they look equally as good on the back. Yeah, definitely worth spending the extra on these. I think they're about £48, including postage. Like I say, got all the fittings with them, even the little tiny screws and the spanner. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Okay, right, let's get this nut cut, if I can find my files. Okay, so, about to cut this nut on the neck here so we can get the strings fitted. And I measured the neck, and it's actually slightly wider than the SG neck and the Epiphone necks. So I thought, well, I need my standard. So I measured the pitch of the strings at the bridge, and they were all 10mm. So I thought, there's our starting point for the bridge end. And at the nut end, the pitch between strings seems to be around 7.01mm pitch between every string. And I measured 5 guitars, and they were all identical. And obviously we get used to playing the strings at the correct pitch apart. So I've marked this out. So there's 7.01 gaps between the strings. And the only thing it changes is obviously the strings just coming a little bit further from the edge of the neck at the top because the neck's wider. So I'm hoping that that will work. So I've got the files. So I'm just going to measure them up, get the right files for the string gauge. I like 10s, so I'm going to set them for 10s and see how we get on. Yeah, it's getting close to being able to play this thing now. Okay, well I sorted that first one for the thick E, and just going to now start very carefully. I've no idea what the material is for this. I imagine it's plastic, but well, that's starting to cut, so obviously this is going to be, although therapeutic for me, pretty dull for you. So I'm just going to cut all the strings through, make sure I can gauge the depth is correct, and then we should be ready to move on to the next stage. Well, it was a bit of a job cutting that nut. Yeah, the files I got off the internet, they were shit. They were rubbish. They kind of do the job, but they go blunt fairly quickly. So I resorted to using some really sharp engineering files I had to make the initial start of the cuts, and then just rounded the slots off to the correct depth and lead out from the nut using the files I got from the internet. So I'm going to have to invest in some better ones. Yeah, if they're cheap, I should know they're going to be crap, aren't they? Anyway, some of these videos are done in a different order, but obviously when I put them out onto YouTube, they're in the correct order because obviously bits are arriving at different times. So I try and film what I can, but just to prove I've done it, and yeah, the strings on it because I'm recording this after the next video. But yeah, it kind of turned out okay. So anyway, next video is coming up fairly soon. I've almost finished it, so please stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch up again soon. Bye now.